Welcome to the question and responses for our eye health video, part 1. Now, let's get into the questions. From 548 Woody, how long should the eye exercises be performed? Now look at the different types of eye exercises. One, the relaxing of the eyes, or covering the eyes, making sure it's super dark and focusing in to see the palm of your hands. That vasodilates, that's for the smooth muscles or the intrinsic muscles of the eyes. That you only need to do for about 1 to 2 minutes, a couple of times a day, and that's for eye strain. For the exercises to change the shape of the eye, and it depends on your job. Now, let's say that you're staring at a computer screen all day long, or you're a draftsperson or computer-aided design, where your eyes aren't going for distance. I would recommend doing that exercise at least 2 times a day. And they only take about maybe 2-3 minutes, where your head is going to be stable. You're going to move your eyes up to the 12 o'clock position, then down to the 6 o'clock position, hold it for a few seconds, and then up to the 1 o'clock, hold it for about 4 or 5, maybe 10 seconds, and then down to 5 o'clock. So you go around, your head doesn't move, but your eyes do. And that works the extrinsic muscles of the eyes. And that depends on your job, at least every day, and that's going to be fantastic. And the third exercise is to focus on a point distant, about 10 meters, 30 feet away, and put your finger between that point that you're focusing on, and your finger is right in between that point. Then you focus on your finger, focus on the distant point, focus on your finger, focus on the distant point. And that's going to constrict and dilate. It's going to dilate for the distance and constrict for the up close. That'll work the intrinsic muscles of the eyes. So depends on the exercise and depends on what you want to accomplish. But if you're doing all of those exercises, that's going to help significantly vision. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this vital information. Question 2, how to find a good chiropractor. From Bruce Askin. I'm 64, had a motor vehicle accident, a cataract removal, neck issues, 20 years plus a double vision to varying degrees. Eyes are now constantly sore and light sensitive. When I drive, I can correct my double vision by lifting and tilting my head forward and just looking underneath my eyebrows. However, this is not very comfortable. I totally get that. So I usually just close one eye. Are there any chiropractors in Australia that are up to the task? I live in Tasmania. Anyone who is any good doesn't stay on the island. Melbourne and Sydney are accessible. A very, very good chiropractic technique is the Gonstead. And I know Gonstead has a group in Australia. Use the 7 questions, like, do you take an x-ray? Do you take a post-x-ray to document the structural and neurologic changes? Do you restore the normal curve and position and motion of the vertebrae? Do you work on post-surgery patients? Can you reverse arthritis? You know, the 7 questions are very, very basic. You know, or if you're taking an x-ray, you're working with it. Now, the key is double vision. Lateral, and this is the most common type of double vision, is from a upper cervical trauma. And this is usually lateral rectus, and that's part of the brainstem. The brain doesn't stop at the skull. The stem of the brain extends down to the top portion of the neck. And this is also a clue that when you change your position of your head, that you're changing the pressure on that brainstem. So we have absolutely got to look at the cervical and thoracic spine, because when you're talking light sensitive, it means you're in a sympathetic dominant state, and the sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for pupil dilation, okay, that means that your pupils are dilated, and being more light sensitive means that they're dilated in a chronic fashion. So look at the thoracic area and cervical spine area, and that's going to start to correct it. But you are absolutely right. This is going to be a structural component. The reason we know that is that if you're moving your structure, you change the symptoms. So let me know how you're doing. Question 3 from Frank in 66. I have dystonia and diplopia. I've had very little dystonia anymore, but diplopia has stayed. Diplopia is double vision. Okay, that means that your eyes aren't tracking the same. Dystonia is a hyperkinetic movement disorder where you're going to be moving, could be the head or your arm, uncontrollable movements. Now, all of this, okay, you've got 3 things we have to fix: physical, chemical, and emotional. The diplopia generally is from pressure on the brainstem, and the brain doesn't stop at the skull. oblong section extends down to the top portion of the neck. Typically, it's going to be lateral rectus that's going to be affected. And this is also what we see with a lot of different eye tracking issues, has to do with upper cervical. So we've got to correct that. Now, the dystonia, typically, you're going to also see a loss of curve, forward head carriage, a structural deviation. And if the brain doesn't have constant sensory input, it puts a motor impulse down. Plus, motor impulses, what are seen in dystonia, it also creates dopamine. And this dopamine is produced in the substantia nigra in the brain, but it's also produced in other areas too. But know that movement has a calming effect on the brain. And this is why, you'll see when people are nervous, they'll be shaking their leg or something. So we know that there's going to be a structural component of the upper neck area, probably upper thoracic, could even be pelvis area, because you are in a stress state. So look at the physical stressors by getting static and stress x-rays of the entire structure. Chemical stress, look at poor sleep, diet, medications. Okay, so your diet's going to be the same as your great-grandparents. Look at our sleep restriction videos so you can reset your circadian rhythms. And then look at the emotional component, okay? Because when you're in a stressed state, the muscles that run from the skull down to the pelvis increase in tone. Just like a Halloween cat goes, they fire off. So there's several techniques to work with the emotional component as well. But by addressing the physical, chemical, and emotional stressors, you'll start to see the source of these symptoms and why they're fire alarms. These are symptoms that are alarms telling you that there's some kind of dysfunction going on. And brother, let me know how you're doing. Question 4 from Ronnie Little. What does wacky scenes mean, please? It's blowing my mind. Thank you. Okay, when you look at this, with the political climate today, okay, thank God it's being changed. We've got Mr. Kennedy, who's, I know personally, he's an honorable, great guy. Hopefully the truth will be coming out. But in the political climate and social media climate, you cannot talk about vaccines. And that's what wacky scenes mean, vaccines. And you can't say anything about the science behind it, what it does in the body, any ingredients in the body, and any effects it has on the body. So we can't talk about that on the standard social media. So on our private site, the Dr. BVIP, and we also have a new site coming out, appliedphysiology.com. That one's site's not ready yet, but oh my God, that's going to be amazing. But on those sites, we can say the truth about wacky scenes or the vaccines, which is mind-blowing. I know what you mean. I have the same problem when I'm looking at these symbols of like an upside down happy face, or what does that mean? I'm with you. Okay, now if your question wasn't answered on this, please go to the Dr. BVIP site where we can talk about wacky scenes and anything else. But God bless you. Stay healthy, my friends, and share this information, please.